Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me in your studio.
Welcome to the Billy Meier Books studio.
Yeah. And last time we didn't have the time, last year when I came. And so it's great that we have the time this time.
Yes.
And yeah, so how did you find the Billy Meier case?
I found Billy Meier through another gentleman called Bill Cooper. And he wrote a book called Behold a Pale Horse. And I read through that book, and there were some references for extraterrestrials and things like that. And that led me to Billy Meier, looking for extraterrestrials and things like that.
So you found him, no, it wasn't before internet, so...
Yes.
So how did you find him then?
There was a flyer that was passed around at my work that he was speaking at Hollywood High School. And...
Billy Meier?
No, Bill Cooper.
Bill Cooper, okay.
Yeah, Bill
I
Cooper.
thought, this can't be. Yeah, okay. And so, but still, like, many people talk about UFOs. So how did you find then Billy?
Bill Cooper was speaking at different events in Los Angeles, the Whole Life Expo and things like that, UFO expos. So I was exposed to those expos, and there I found other UFO cases as well as the Billy Meier case.
Ah, okay. And like, was it, who was it that kind of displayed Billy Meier?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
No.
So, okay, you just stumbled across at this UFO,
somehow, yeah,
UFO expo or what it was. Okay.
That's the connection, I can just tell you. It came from Bill Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse, and that led me to the UFO scene, where I came into contact with Billy Meier material, and then, of course, I started reading the contact notes, the message from the Pleiades 1 through 4.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, that's Wendell Stevens' translation.
Yes.
And, which he put out after he was put in jail, which is, he was in jail from 83 to 88.
Ah.
And then afterwards, I mean, that's usually when you would say, now he had enough,
I give up.
Yeah, right. On even though it was on false charges and so on, but still, that's when in 88 was when he had it already translated, and then he put it out.
Wow.
And then in 1990, the second one, 93, I think the third, and 95, the fourth one. So that's quite amazing of him, I think, to come out of jail and, okay, now really I go for it, and...
Brave man.
Yeah, really brave. So you read the contact reports, basically.
Yes.
And, what did you think?
I was really shocked by it. I came from a religious background, and after reading those, I thought, I have to get to the bottom of this, because I've seen the photos, and now I've read the contact notes, which were much more, intriguing than just the UFO photos. The UFO photos at that time, I wasn't really sure about. I thought, these are too good to be true. And then after reading the contact notes, I thought, I have to get to the bottom of this. So I wrote my first letter to Billy in 1991. And of course, I got an answer back. I think Felia wrote to me and answered my questions, and that's sort of where it started. Shortly after that, I guess Bruni had stepped in, Bruni Koye, Core-Group Member. So we started communicating with her, or I did, and she put me in touch with a group that had already been formed in California. I was living just outside of Los Angeles, called the California Study Group. And this was very small. It was Bob and Heidi, and I'll just use first names. So it's Bob and Heidi and Cheryl and Cynthia were the members. So Bruni put me into contact with them, and so I started attending the meetings there.
Yeah, at that time you were still in California.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And Heidi, as far as I know, translated a lot.
She did. I have some pictures here if you'd like to see.
Go ahead.
That's the only one I have of all of us. That was my birthday, so they had So across the top, this is Cheryl,
Yeah.
and then Heidi, and then me, and then Cynthia, and that's Bob, Heidi's husband.
Oh, okay, yeah. And yeah, here you are again.
That's Crystal,
Yeah.
and then Heidi, and of course me.
Yeah. And I just know that the group then fell apart as several groups. But can you say what happened?
Sure. Let me bring you up to speed a little bit,
Yeah.
because Heidi was really good at translating. I mean, the best I had ever come across. She really knew German. She was native German, and she really knew German and English very well. She was working in San Diego as like a secretary or executive assistant. So she was writing in English, for her job. So she was really good at both. So the California study group sort of grew, and we were translating. And Heidi was translating it, and we were publishing it, and really putting out a lot of material. And that went on for some time. And then in the early 90s, through Heidi, we had the opportunity to have Guido come over. So Guido started coming to Los Angeles once a year, sometimes twice a year. And we would organize events for him, usually at the big shows, usually at the Whole Life Expo or the UFO Expo, things like that. I brought a couple of the old things here. This is UFO Expo,
Yeah.
and the Whole Life Expo. Of course, that was '93.
Yeah. So it was very different to today. Everything on paper.
Yes.
Everything had to be printed, and like black and white. And,
Yes.
And yeah, there's here.
It's
Two
two page. Yeah.
Yeah, lecture Saturday 2 p.m. Workshop Saturday 7:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Pretty
so
my story.
my role in this was really organizing, and I negotiated all this to get these free advertisements, because they would charge for those advertisements. They would have people pay to put advertisements. So we got that for free, and we also got a booth for free. So my argument was, hey, Guido's paying all this money to come over here that you don't have to pay for him to speak, so give us a free advertisement and a free booth.
Yeah.
So these were some of the very first booths we had. We used the FIGU banner.
Yeah.
This is
So-
me. This is a Guido
Guido?
and Bob and Heidi Peters.
Yeah. And that was 93, wasn't it?
Yeah, 93, 94, 95, in those years.
Yeah.
And that's
So, yeah.
that's Bob
Or
and me
you
and
three.
Heidi.
Yeah.
And
then-
this sort of goes on. That's Mark Giuliano and me.
Yeah.
We were so successful at these shows. We had hundreds. I think this mailing right here is 400 envelopes we stuffed to invite people to group meetings and things like that.
Okay.
So
So
really successful.
people got really interested.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's quite a bit.
And that's
And
Guido, and that's his translator. Dr. Wagner was a professor at UCLA in German,
Ah.
and he was really good. He could do simultaneous translation.
Yeah.
Now, we did consecutive because it was easier for the audience to understand, but he was so good. Guido could start talking, and within a few seconds later, he would start talking in English. So it was amazing to see.
Yeah.
That's my living room. That's me and Guido and Bob and my wife Crystal.
Yeah.
That's the place where Guido and I spent many, many evenings talking about time travel and about all different kinds of things. I really got to know Guido well, through his trips here.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. This is Jason. So I talked about Mark and Jason. This is Herbert Runkle,
Yeah.
and this is Fritz Goldman and Christina Goldman. And
Oh, okay.
Christina Goldman, I think, is core-group member now.
Yeah.
So,
That's
And-
Christina.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see.
In the right
The hair changed.
in 94, 95, that's her.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course,
And-
that's Guido and Mark, and I'm in the back there.
Yeah, and this is Herbert.
Herbert Runkle, I think is the last name.
Herbert.
Herbert, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
German, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Those three came over with Guido on this particular trip.
Yeah.
So they came to our booth and stuff.
Yeah.
So we got to know them.
Yeah, quite a crowd then from Hinterschmidrueti.
Yes, yes.
So, and this is.
That's Jason and Mark, The three of us really were close. I mean, we were very, very close friends, and we went on. We'll talk about it later, I'm sure. We went on to form Steelmark and all that types of things. So here's some earlier pictures of Jason, Mark, and I. Same with those three.
Yeah.
And that's one of the group meetings in San Diego.
Yeah. You had quite a group.
Yeah.
I mean, how many is it? This is like 15 people, so more than usually now, It's
yeah.
Like, so that's, but then kind of, how did it continue? Did you go to Switzerland or?
Yes. My first trip was with my wife Crystal in 1993, so just a few years after I had written, and I also became a passive member in 1993. So that was sort of my first trip there, get to know everybody, who the core group members are and who Billy is and all those types of things. Then I went back in 95 and again in 97 and again in 2000. That's sort of moving forward a little bit. So really from 1993 to 1998 were Guido's years. I mean, we were translating. Heidi was putting out, she was translating the FIGU bulletins into English, and we were binding these, just the cheap bindings, and making the material available in English.
Yeah.
So it was we really had it going good.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, we ended up splitting, and a large part of that was due to me. I mean, I caused a lot of problems in the group. I was young, I was very successful in LA, and my ego got really, really big. And I thought I knew what was best, and I wanted to do it my way, and all these types of things. I look back now and say, oh my God. But back then I didn't see that. I was very young and immature. So Heidi and I started to bump heads, and then that's sort of where the group split came from. So.
But it didn't stop. Like 2 new groups started.
Yes. So there were some other reasons too. Heidi was driving up from San Diego to Los Angeles, like a couple times a month or every other weekend. It's just a long drive, especially with the traffic. So she had been wanting to, and that last picture I showed you, that was in San Diego. So we were sort of going back and forth, but it was tough on everybody because it's a long drive. So part of the other reason was that she would have a group down there, and then Mark, Jason, and I formed the Los Angeles Study Group in 1998. So there was the South California or Southern California Study Group, which was Heidi's and her people, and then the Los Angeles Study Group came. And it was a shame because we were really doing so well. I mean, we really had, everybody was working as a team. We were getting the message out. Guido was coming to lecture. People were able to read the material in English, they had access to it. Because back then, there's a lot of books available today. Back then, there was nothing. Yeah. So that's how that transitioned in '98. We formed Los Angeles Study Group, and then the 2 groups continued on their own.
Yeah. Well, how did it continue then with the groups? Like, there were 2 groups running. They, of course, then smaller.
Yes.
But but they still could be fine, So.
Well, it wasn't, because we didn't have a translator, right? Heidi was the one translating, and Heidi and Bob didn't really have the knowledge, or some of the other people didn't have the knowledge how to do the printing, and the binding, and all those types of things. So, it was sort of done at that point. I mean, it continued on, but not in the same way it did. When we were all working together.
Yeah.
So.
What happened to the groups?
The South California Study Group, I don't know. I mean, I have to ask somebody else what happened onto that. The LA Study Group continued, and then in 1999, I ended up moving to Oklahoma, where I live now. So I wasn't so much involved in the LA Study Group. They continued on for some time, but I wasn't actively meeting because I wasn't living in the area.
Yeah. Yeah. You met Fobel Cheng.
Yes. And that ended up being a very, very important part of my life. It was around 95 or 96, maybe 93. One of Guido's tours, when he was out speaking in Los Angeles, he had an offer to do a lecture in New York. So after his lectures in LA, he flew out to New York and I guess met Pobel, and she was asking questions and he gave her my number. So, lo and behold, a few weeks after his lecture, she called me up and then ended up coming out to Los Angeles to visit and stayed with us in LA there, and that's how I got to know her. We became very close, and Pobel is a very private person, as you know. She doesn't like the publicity and all of the hoopla around with those types of Billy Meier and UFOs and all those types of things. So she's very private. So she asked me to keep our relationship private. I mean, I think Mark and Jason knew, my wife knew, of course, but she didn't want me telling anybody that we were meeting, and she was teaching me, basically. I didn't really have a lot of people to ask about the spiritual things and the things I was interested in. And the one thing that astonished me about her was every question I asked her about spirituality with Billy stuff, with creation and spirit form and reincarnation and, of course, meditation, she could answer it all. I mean, it was just an amazing person that showed up in my life when I really needed it. So we became good friends, and I consistently asked her questions, and she helped me out.
Yeah, I just interviewed her in New York.
Oh, and great.
Yeah, and she, I really appreciated that she kind of spoke openly also about her experiences, and that might be pretty unique, that footage.
Yes.
For the documentary, and someday I'll put the whole interview online, I guess. But
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
So when I first met Pobel, we were, just getting to know each other and stuff, and she wanted to see some of Billy's photos. And she had told me about her experiences in India at the Ashoka Ashram, and about her experiences with Ascot. So I said, and you have to think now, back then I was very young and I was very excited about Billy Meier. And I wanted to tell my whole family, and I just wanted to share it with the world, and sort of like, bought and sold. I was stamped Billy Meier, right? That's how I was in that age. So I show Pobel the Ascot and Nira photos. Now, mind you, this is 94, 95, before any of us knew anything. So I showed her the photographs, and she looked right at it and says, "That's not the Ascot I knew." And I looked at it and I said, "This is Billy Meier photos. You're crazy." So it made me doubt her a little bit. I thought, okay, well, she's teaching me a lot of good things and has a lot of answers, but this is Billy's photo. He says it's real, so she doesn't know. Maybe she doesn't remember. She was a little girl. It was only much later, I think it was in 1998, that we were told that, hey, this was a falsified photo.
Yeah.
And I was just floored, because she was right.
Yeah.
But told me years before, and I didn't believe her.
Yeah.
So that always stuck in my mind.
Yeah. And it shows she really saw her.
Yeah.
She could tell the difference.
Oh yeah, she said the hair was darker.
It was like
yes.
34 years or 30 years later.
Yeah.
She still remembered so clearly that because they look very much alike.
Yes.
Billy says he met Michelle in Hinterschmidrueti, and you can confuse them, as he did, it happened to him. And he didn't pay much attention. The photos came in, and so he looked at them maybe briefly, and then, okay, that's it. Because for him it was a job to do, to take photos. He did that, finished,
Yeah.
It's for him it wasn't a big deal. It's like, because he met them in person.
Right.
So what's a big photo of them?
Yeah.
I've seen them and talked to them. So
Sure.
that was, well, unfortunate, but on the other hand, in the end the truth comes out, and he cannot have taken the photos because of the resolution of the TV. You know, you would always see a black bar when you take a photo of a TV screen at that time, and so it's anyway.
Yeah.
But that's very telling that she recognized that it's not asket.
Yes.
You know?
Right. Immediately. There was no question. She said,
Yeah.
"That's not the asket I knew."
Yeah.
Right. Just right off the bat. I mean, it wasn't. Did she think about it or no? No, that's not her.
Yeah.
I thought, well, Billy says it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You also met her grandfather.
Yes. Davara, yes. Bhante Davara.
How was that?
Amazing. I mean, he was up in Stockton, so I flew up there. I have some pictures if you'd like to see.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I think it was on his birthday. It was like he was 105 or 106 or something. I don't remember exactly, but
yeah. Yeah, that's the photo. That's quite well known.
Yeah, and there he is sitting there.
Yeah.
This is me, and this is her husband, Christoph, Pobel's husband.
Yeah.
And this is just sort of the celebration. You know, you were in Buddhism, so I'm sure you're familiar with all of those. And this is another picture of him.
Yeah, he became about 110 or something like that.
Yeah,
I think.
before he passed on.
Yeah. That's.
So, and we're just sitting here listening to him talk. That's me, and that's Christoph. I don't know who that is in the back there.
Yeah.
And this is a picture with Pobel with her grandfather. She was presenting a little art thing. You know. And this is Pobel and I outside one of the buildings. And this is with Christoph. That's her. It's me and Pobel and Christoph.
Oh, yeah.
And here's a picture of Billy and
that's a nice one.
Pobel. That is a good one.
Yeah, that's.
She visited. Her and Christoph both visited Billy.
Yeah.
I don't remember what year, but.
Yeah.
That's
they did visit him, and.
So it's he didn't really tell me anything spectacular or anything like that. It was just more small conversation. But for me to be in the same room with someone where Billy spent time with, he was at the Ashoka ashram, and Pobel has a lot of stories. I'm sure she told you some of them.
With her grandfather.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll save that for when your next video comes out with her.
Yeah.
So, but to be around him, just to know that Billy spent time with him and stuff, it was a piece of history. I just sort of looked at it as that.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So
that takes us up to around 2000. In 2000, I made another trip back to Schmidrueti, and at that point, I was already living in Oklahoma, and I wanted to get all of the passive members together in the United States because at that time the internet was just in its infancy. So we didn't have Skype and we didn't have Zoom and all those types of things. So email and mostly phone calls and stuff. So I really thought it was important that the people who were seriously interested, the passive members, spent personal time together and got to know each other on a personal level. So I made a proposal, to the core group, said, hey, I'd like to do this. You don't need to do anything other than give me all the names of the passive members. So they did. They were fine with that. And in 2000, I held the first annual meeting of passive members. We call it the AMPM. And all the passive members in the United States that were interested got together. And I brought you a few pictures. This is the first one from 2000, and I'll just tell you across the top. So that's me, and then Mark, and then Dee Hansen, and I don't know who the next one is, and then it's Ari, and then Gunther Neugebauer, core group member at the time. I don't remember who he is. I think his name was Anthony. And then this is Andrew's wife, Anthea. And then Joseph Royak. And this is, I forgot the name at the moment. And then on the end, Scott Baxter. And then the first row here is Midge. And Scott Baxter's here. Yeah.
Okay.
Midge, and that's Brock and Teresa Bradford, and Mark Campbell, and Michael Horn, and Felia, and I forgot her name also.
Yeah.
So that was the first annual meeting of passive members. It was at my place in Oklahoma, and it was nice. We all got to spend some time together, and we had put enough money. The way we set it up is we had all pitched in enough money to pay for the plane fares for 2 core group members to come out and spend time with us and talk and things like that. It's just to sort of get things kicked off. So it was nice. So did that again in 2001. And I won't go through all the names. They're relatively the same. And then in 2002. And then in 2003, I ended up going back to Switzerland again, to the center. So we didn't have one then, and then had another one in 2004.
Yeah.
And there's a picture. This one in 2004, it was, Gunter didn't come, but Christian did. So it was Feely and Christian.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of Mark, Christian, myself, and Scott Whitney.
Yeah. And then what became of well, you started publishing books, like the one of...
Yes. In, I wrote it down here, because in 2001, Mark, Jason, and I decided to form a publishing company to officially publish some of Billy's books in English. Steelmark, right. Yeah. So that name Jason and Mark came up with, it's Jason's last name, Jason Steele, and Mark Giuliano. So that's sort of where the name came from.
Okay.
And yeah, we formed that, and then we published, the first thing we published was and Yet They Fly.
Yeah.
That was Guido's first book in English.
Yeah, like here.
Yep.
And then later it's And Still They Fly.
Yes.
Why was that changed? I never understood. That, like.
Yeah. The Pleiarans got a hold of this book, and actually made a bunch of corrections in it. Yeah. But also the title, they said that it's more accurate to use And Still They Fly rather than And Yet They Fly. It was more accurate of a translation.
Yeah.
So we changed it and revamped the book, and then also added the Enoch prophecies, which at that time has just been translated in English. We added those in the back, sort of like as a bonus type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did it? You also published like the Talmud Emmanuel.
Yes. So that was originally being published.
I show it.
Sure.
So that people can.
That was originally being published by Wildflower Press, by Pam and Brian Chrissy, and they weren't interested in publishing it anymore. So we got together with them and with Billy, and ended up taking over and publishing the 4th edition of the Talmud.
Yeah. Before then, the 5th edition is then when it was like revised and corrected and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you also put out this...
in 2004, we did the photo book. Yes.
Through Space and Time.
Through Space and Time.
And that is... and it's of high quality. I
mean,
that's just like...
thick.
What people... what's hard to... But the quality is really high.
Yes.
And that is so... Piero did a great job in...
he did.
Yeah, in scanning it with a drum scanner and in high quality, and so it's not cheap, but it's worth its price.
Yeah.
Really. You get a good quality prints there.
Yeah, well, it was a $60 book at the time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It still is,
Yeah. So that was Steelmark. That's what we did then. Also in 2001, we founded the FIGU Society. So this is out here in Oklahoma. And the FIGU Society was sort of an attempt to be an official, FIGU type of group. And that was started initially. This is a picture from 2002. This is Dee Hansen, midshipman, myself, and Richard Parrish. The four of us started that. And then Midge ended up leaving, and Scott Whitney and Brenda both joined us. So that was the FIGU Society in 2003. And that lasted until about 2006. And, we had problems. We had the same type of problems that we had in the California study group. A lot of it due to me, a lot of it due to my ego and inability to, to get along with people. So I was, unfortunately, I was a major player, a major reason why both of those groups had problems. Was because me and my ego, when I was younger. So I look back now and say, oh my gosh. But at the time, I didn't know, I wasn't aware, and it caused a lot of problems for the groups here.
Yeah, but I noticed that quite a few, like especially when they discover and they're over enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was too little and talked to people like too openly about it, and then like, oh, no response. How can that be? But that is not only your problem. It's like I see this over and over again. That it's on the one hand nice when people are enthusiastic, but sometimes they kind of
go too far.
Go too far, yeah, and it has this kind of, because we're all raised religious, and or almost all, there it comes through again.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, I know better. My religion is the best.
Yeah.
That comes actually through there also. This, and of course, ego is always a problem. It never stops. That you totally controlling your ego is really, really difficult.
No. I don't think there is any such thing, because the ego always tries to get forward. It's so tricky.
Yeah.
It always tries to present itself somehow, some way in your life.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of if you can see that or not.
Yeah.
So, and at the time, that I had no way of seeing it. So.
Yeah, and football helped you there.
She did. So in 2006, when I left the FIGU Society, and they continued. They ended up going to Arizona and continuing on, and it fell apart ultimately. But after that, I ended up asking Pobel if I could be her student, and she had a couple of other students already. She's a very private person, and so to be able to become a student of hers was a very unique and a very special thing for me, that she accepted me for that, because she only had a few. And as you probably know, she's very private. She doesn't like to return emails or phone calls and things like that. She's just the way she is. If anybody's ever written to her and she hasn't responded, don't be offended, because that's just the way she is.
Yeah.
But she took me on as a student. So from 2006 till about 2017, I was a student at Pobel's and learned a tremendous amount about all different things. She exposed me to so many different traditions and teachings, and just really rounded out my spiritual types of studies. And I'm really thankful for that. The most important thing that she taught me was who Mike is. She taught me to see who I was, to see all these different aspects of my personality, and when they come out, and how they're triggered, and how I can learn to observe those and curtail those and change those. I don't know if I would have ever learned that without her. And that's what she really gave me. She really gave me an understanding about myself. And that's it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
It's painful to go through, because you don't want to admit these things, especially when someone points it out. But over the years, it's just been really helpful. It's allowed me to see myself and understand myself in ways that I couldn't have imagined without her.
Yeah, but you become actually freer.
Yes.
If you go through that.
Yes.
Then you can see yourself, and then take an active role in changing things because you're aware of it. That's so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a precious gift.
Yeah, it is.
And,
it is.
And she's a great woman.
She is.
Yeah.
She is.
She has wisdom. Yeah.
We would go on these retreats, like a week at a time or sometimes 10 days at a time, and she'd have us fast. This was later. I mean, she really stepped us up. But, we started with doing 3-day fasts, on the retreats, and then she stepped it up to 7-day fasts, which, I just thought was just so difficult. And we even did a 10-day fast. That means fast. That's no food. That's just water for 10 days. And man, the things that come up in your life, the emotions that come up, all these aspects of your personality is rebelling because it doesn't have what it wants, right? There's no satiation and stuff like that. It really gave me a deep understanding of who I was. And she was there to guide us, like, I'm feeling this, and she'll tell us exactly why and what this is and what aspects and everything. It was just really, really a great experience. I never thought I could, if in the beginning he says, can you fast for 10 days? I would have said, no, there's no possible way. But through this slowly step process, we were able to do it. And it really gave me, some insights that I wouldn't have had before.
Yeah. So when did you go first to, you went to Hinterschmidrueti?
Yes, the first time was in 1993, and I went with my wife. And actually I have a couple more pictures here for you. That's our first trip in 1993, and that's Karen.
Yeah,
Core-Group.
Berlin.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
Core-Group member, and I don't remember his name, and that's Crystal and I.
Yeah.
And this is the owner of the Freihof.
Yeah.
And I don't remember her name, but I think it was Kirby's mom or grandmother or something. Mm-hmm. Kirby and Ursula, who at least last time I was there.
We're running it now.
Yeah. And this is Christina Gasser, Core-Group member. She was actually the first person that taught me anything about meditation. So she would do the timing for the Salome meditations and things like that. And this picture of Hans Georg.
Hans-Georg Lanzendorfer and Brigitte.
And Christian. And the first president.
Engelbert.
Engelbert, first FIGU president.
Yeah.
And Willem was actually involved with some groups out here, our annual meeting of passive members, and of course now lives in Switzerland and is married to Mary Ann. Yeah. And they've done a lot of translation work.
Yeah.
I mean, really contributed a lot to
and also a lot of proofreading.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
Goblet of the Truth, like 5 years, just proofreading it and endless discussions with Billy about certain words. And that was, they don't do that again.
No.
No, that's over.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Silvano, you and Patrick.
Patrick, yep. Yep. And then
Silvano and you. And
he had this little military truck. You probably know it, right?
No, I don't.
Oh,
they don't have it anymore.
Oh, they don't.
Yeah.
We would drive in the evenings to go have dinner or something. So. And Helga Friedrich, she lived in Vila. She actually helped us do the correction work on Through Space and Time, the photo book.
Yeah.
So that's a picture of her and I working in the kitchen on the corrections, and that's a picture of her. I think probably she's passed away by now because it was quite a while ago.
Yeah. That was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that's like
03.
03.
Yeah,
okay,
2003 was on that one.
Still 20 years.
Yes.
I don't think she's alive anymore.
Probably not.
Yeah. I never met her, at least, in the last 6 years. Yeah, Karin,
Eva, yep.
And then that's Barbara.
Barbara.
Patrick.
Yep.
I don't know.
I don't know who the lady on the end is.
Yeah.
And Christian Krakowski. Most people know him from the drawings that he did of
the Ptaah.
Yes.
Yes. That's right.
And Hans Georg again, and Silvano. And there's a picture of Atlant, and I think Piero.
I think that's Atlantis.
Oh.
Yeah, Atlantis and Piero. playing table tennis.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Madeleine.
Yeah, and Barbara.
And Barbara again.
Yeah.
Yep. And
smoking in the kitchen. That's not anymore.
You know, that's a old picture.
Yeah, not anymore.
And there's a couple pictures of Billy.
Billy. Yeah, that's a nice
one. The ones on the internet where he's wearing the blue sweater. We took those in '95. Yeah. So, and of course, there's one sort of group together: Guido and Billy, Mark and Jason down up front, and this other person I don't really know who he is.
Yeah.
Stefan, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There. And getting to know Guido, when we would travel to Switzerland, a lot of times he'd invite us out to his house. And on one trip, he took us by where he used to teach. So he was a teacher most of his life and sort of ran the school. And that building behind him there is the schoolhouse where he taught. And then up at the top here is the apartment where he lived. Mm-hmm. So we got to see a little bit of, his profession, where he taught and all those kinds of things. So I got to know Guido very well. The trips out, for him lecturing and stuff like that, we would spend many nights up late at dinner room table just talking about time travel and particles and all kinds of things that he loved and I loved to talk about too. So we got to know each other really well. So I got to know his wife, Elizabeth Muschberger. That's Guido and I just chatting on a bench. Anyway, that's some of the old photos.
So you visited the center several times. And
yes. Yep.
In the 2000s.
Yeah, I started visiting the center in 1993, and then I was going every 2 years. I couldn't afford it anymore, so every other year I would go. So I went in 93 and 95, 97, 98, 2000, and 2003. And, got to know the core group and Billy and FIGU and what everything is all about. And anyway, I think that was a great experience.
Yeah. How? Because I came 2018. So what was it like at that time in Hinterschmidrueti with the core group, and how did you experience it?
The core group was under a lot of stress, and I want to say something about the core group because this is really misunderstood. So let me answer your question first. The core group is very stressed, so they're all working normal jobs. They're coming, sometimes during the week, but certainly every other weekend to do, work around the farm, to do corrections, to do just all the work that requires to keep up that. So, they weren't as friendly as you might expect. They, maybe a little bit, short or, with people and things like that, or maybe mad or whatever. But it's the way it was back then because they were just trying to get everything off the ground. And everybody was working so hard and just really just sort of the end of their ability to be able to do that. So that was my first several years of experience in there. But I wanted to say something. The core group works so hard and dedicates so much of their life and their time to what they do. When you go to visit, you have to have that in your mind. You have to know that these people many of them work normal jobs, 8 to 5 or 8 hours, 10 hours, come and do work at the center, give up all their weekends, do all this work to preserve what Billy's writings are and do things like that. So if you go there and someone's short with you or you don't feel so welcome or something, don't take offense to that. The core group has done so much work that people may never ever know. I was young and I went there so often. I know how they work. I know the dedication that's put in. I know what they gave up. I know relationships that split because of it. It's just they have done the ultimate service. People say all about Billy, but you know what they miss about saying is the amount of work that the core group put in. It's tremendous amount of work. So when you go to visit, just try to have a little understanding and a little respect for people that have done so much, given so much of their lives to this. So if it doesn't go your way or there's a problem, let it go. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. So.
Yeah, then in 2010 or so, when did you start your companies?
Right, so I started two companies, one in 2010. It's a wireless internet service provider, so both are internet service providers, so ISPs. The one in 2010 is a wireless ISP, and the one in 2014 is a fiber optic ISP. So I formed both those companies. I run them both today. They're small. I have 11 employees. So, but you know, I make a living and provide a valuable service to the people in rural Oklahoma, and that's how I make my living today.
Yeah. Why did you start your Billy Books, Billy Meier Books?
Billy Meier Books
channel.
The YouTube channel.
Yeah. Why did you start your YouTube channel?
I started the channel because I saw how society was, and I saw how bad things were getting, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do something to make a difference to society or the world. So I tried to think, what could I do, or what topics or what issues could I address? So the first thing, not the first thing, but as I sort of through a deductive process decided what to go after, I thought, well, a major problem is people aren't evolving their consciousness. They don't have any conscious evolution. So I'll start with that. So my first videos I did on, you know, consciousness and all the different forms and stuff like that. But after I got into it, I soon realized that, boy, it's much worse than that. They forget about conscious evolution. People aren't even thinking. They can't think for themselves. They just hear something on the internet or read something or watch something on Facebook, and it's the truth for them. There's no thinking at all. So I had to back up even more to think, okay, I need to attack this problem even at a more fundamental basis. So then I sort of moved into, you know, other areas like you know, neutrality and belief. I recently did one on, you know, belief and things like that. So to tell to people that you shouldn't believe, that you should think for yourself. So the reason why I started Billy Meier Books is to try to take the worst or the hardest problems in society and to try to address them in some way, to try to give information or to try to help people in some way to address these, what I thought, you know, at the time, the most fundamental problems in society. So yeah. That's the main reason I did the Billy Meier Books.
Yeah, some of your videos are with your wife, but did also other people maybe collaborate with you?
Yes. The Plearin, who are the Plearin, and why are they here? I collaborated with a gentleman named Ben Gomal. So he had written to me, emailed to me and said, hey, can I help out? And I said, oh, sure. So we co-wrote those scripts together, and you know, I ended up doing the video, but we wrote those together. He helped. And of course, I did the interview with Michael Horn, and I did the interview. I have another series called FIGU Groups, so I did one with Michael Uterbrook at the Canadian National Group, and also with Vivian Legge of the Australian National Group. And also, I did one with Andreas Mitterdorfer. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Okay.
From Austria.
From Austria, yeah. He had written to me saying, hey, why don't you do a video on love? And I was terrified because I don't know much about it. So I thought, well, I could talk a little bit about, you know, affective love, because, you know, that's sort of in our life, but effective love, I don't think I've ever experienced it. So I thought, how am I going to talk about that? So I wrote him back and said, hey, if we do one on love, let's do it together. And he ended up saying, okay. So I wrote a script, I sent it over to him, and he corrected it and said, hey, I don't think it's really that way. And so I got the book again, of course it's all in German, read through it, and I said, you're right, it's not that way. So I revised it. So we sort of went back and forth. It was really helpful. So we co-authored that script on love, and it was great. So we put that out. And another thing I should say, for the Billy Meier Books channel, I really see that as an open platform. So if there's anybody else that wants to do a video, just if you don't want to be in front of a camera, write a video, any aspect of the video process, if you'd like to be a part of that, I'd love to collaborate with you. If you want to do your own video, everybody has a cell phone. Most people have cell phones nowadays. You can set a cell phone up and just tell your story or what you want to talk about, what spiritual topics. Send that video in and we'll edit it for you. You don't have to do anything. So anybody who wants to collaborate on a video on Billy Meier's spiritual topics, the Billy Meier Books channel is an open forum. We more than welcome anybody that wants to join.
Great. That's really great. Yeah. Is there anything else you might want to add or say, or what your hopes maybe, or kind of?
Well, I would say I'll break it into 3 categories. So the first category is maybe religious people who are still tied up in religion, or maybe not quite sure they're in religion, that may think about something else. I would encourage them to, move forward and try to look for something else. Try to get away from belief and think for yourself. That's sort of the first step for them. If they can think for themselves and not just believe, that will lead them, in a completely different way, and would better that. The next group would be for people who are seekers, the people who are actively, they're not involved in an organized religion and they're seeking something else, something greater. And for those people, I would recommend read one of Billy's books. It can't hurt. And after you read one of Billy's books, you'll know right away if it's for you or if it's not for you. That's the best that you could do, is give them a chance. Not a book by Wendell Stevens or somebody else about Billy, but a book written by Billy. That's what I recommend. And then for the serious people, for maybe people in FIGU groups or study groups or things like that, the most important thing that you could do is put effort towards your own evolution. Put effort towards your own spiritual growth. Because I was in groups, for so many years, and it's so easy to say, okay, let's do this, let's print a book, let's do, whatever it is. They're all external things. And I was guilty of it as well. We tend to neglect our inner work. So for that final group, I would say the most important thing would be to put some genuine effort towards your own growth and your own understanding, not just helping everybody else out because we're excited about it and things like that. So those are the 3 things I think could be helpful for people, going forward.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And people should take that to heart.
Sure.
Whatever group they belong to.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the opportunity to be on your channel. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Sure.
And in your nice studio here.
Oh, thank you.
And maybe you come to Hinterschmidrueti?
Next year. I think I'm going to join you out there in 2025. So.
Yeah, that would be great. And we do something.
Yeah,
different.
We'll do something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Okay.